Man, there for a second, I thought the world was going to end or something. Hey, it's Thursday night. Scotland's on the verge of becoming a new country. They'll be using bitcoins as currency. America, of course, we're lashing out on anybody named ISIS. Or is that Imus? The NFL buries the game of the week on Thursday night with the Buccaneers and Falcons, and today is National Cheeseburger Day. Hi, welcome to Thursday Night Sports Talk, one and all. Greg Banks in the studio, and joining me tonight, my semi-hosts, I guess we can call them. We've got Dave Shannon from Altoona and Chad States from Huntington. Glad to have you guys along for another edition of Thursday Night Sports Talk. Welcome to it, guys.
All right. How are you, Greg?
I'm hanging in there, buddy. How you doing?
All right. Chad, what's going on in the wonderful world of Huntington?
Hey, Huntington.
Hey, it is a beautiful night down here.
Oh, yeah.
It's been a
gorgeous evening.
Great week for weather. I'm sure the high school football players will be happy to have all that gear on and playing in a little bit cooler conditions this week.
Yes.
Absolutely right. It wasn't too bad last Friday, but now it starts to get into what they call football weather. So it's feeling pretty good.
Yeah, we're talking about the 30s and the 40s. You know, Chad and I were talking a little bit, Dave, before you came on, and I said, we're just a couple of guys that get together every Thursday night, talk about sports, I guess from a Pennsylvania perspective. We've got some people that are tuning in all around the world these days, including Huntington, of all places, my hometown. But I think they like to listen in and just see where we're going with this conversation, which we'll do tonight. And we kick it off every Thursday night with the Pirates. And, Dave, I hate to say this, but I was reviewing a tape of yours a couple of weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And I think you pretty much had written them off, but I think they're still in the game. What do you think?
Well, they're definitely still in the game, Greg. However, what this gets down to, Chad and I kind of agreed on this last week. It gets down to that Atlanta series, and don't misunderstand or mistake what they're doing right now for what they may do when the Pirates get there into Atlanta. Mm-hmm. And they have a tough 3 games coming up here against the Milwaukee Brewers, and nothing, as far as a lead or anything like that goes, they really don't have any commanding anything at this particular point. I was kind of surprised that the Cardinals had a little bit of a stumble there, but, and boy, was I concerned last weekend, after last Thursday's show, that game against the Cubs on Saturday was just really troubling to actually watch that unfold. But, hey, they came back on Sunday. They won that game. They went down early in that game, and they showed some character, and they came back. So there you go.
Hey, Chad, how about that game last night, man? It looks like bombs away for the Buccos, man.
Fingers all over the place. Absolutely. Yeah. Dave, they're in. I'm just going to go out on a limb now and say it. I know you said it a couple weeks ago to count them off. They're in. And here's why. I don't think that the teams that they're going to play are playing good baseball and are very good. I happened to watch the Braves and the Nationals play the last 2 nights, actually the last 3 nights. Last night I know that the Braves beat the Nationals, but really the Nationals didn't play anybody after their celebration from the night before. Mm-hmm. So they had no starters in there whatsoever. The other two games that I watched, that Atlanta team is demoralized. They can't find themselves right now. They don't know how to react to anything. So, while I think Washington is a very good baseball team that took them to the shed, I don't think Atlanta knows how to do it. I don't think they know how to do it anymore. I think the same thing's true of Milwaukee. And honestly, I think those are the 2 teams that they really have to watch out for.
Right.
But I don't think the Brewers can really put anything together here that's on a consistent basis. I think of the 3, the Pirates stand to be the most consistent team going down the stretch. Mm-hmm. So I'm making the call. They're in the playoffs. They're going to face the Giants.
And I'm checking these standings tonight, 2.5 games behind the Cards in the Central Division. And I believe the next one up, would that be the Braves? About 5 games back of the Cardinals now. So, anything could happen. And I hope that some good things happen because they're starting to sell those playoff tickets today. And how about Liriano's spectacular September? You got to give the guy some credit, guys.
Yeah, the only thing I was concerned about with last night's game in particular was the lack of distance that he was able to get. The fact that even though he held them off the scoreboard and everything, I'm looking at his pitch count there in the 5th inning, and it's like he has 91 pitches, and 47 of them are strikes and 44 of them are balls. That was very, very disconcerting to see that. But, as it has been said, a win is a win is a win. I guess maybe one of the upsides to the Pirates here over the last couple of weeks, actually over the last week, is there seems to be an upsurge in that bullpen again. They seem to be going back. That back end of the bullpen, because of a situation like Liriano, has to be really good in order for them to move any kind of a distance anywhere. And the addition of, they talked about it last night, they said maybe the addition of Axford has changed the mentality in the bullpen. And also Holtzcomb. My goodness, I'll tell you what, if Mark Melanson was not the established closer, I would be, Holtzcomb would be the guy that I'd be using, like in the off days. Melanson pitched yesterday, so we're going to give him a night off, and John Holtzcomb's going to be the guy. Goodness, can he throw the baseball?
What do you think about that, Chad? And the pitching that they've had with Volquez, Morton, Liriano, and the backup crew as well, looking half decent, I think.
And I agree, and that's the key of getting into playing October baseball. Your pitching staff has to come around and has to show some consistency, and that's exactly what they're doing. It's good to see the bullpen finally coming around. That's a group of guys that they leaned on so heavily to get to where they got to last year. So it's very, very important. I actually think that the lineup has come more into a consistent mode with Pedro Alvarez out of it. Now you have Tighe playing third base, doing a wonderful job.
Right.
You don't have Pedro and his 220 average in there sucking down and sucking the life out of everything.
Right.
So, I think this team, really, I think that they are wild card bound without a question of a doubt in my mind.
Well, what do you think about Garrett Cole now? He's on the hill, I believe, tonight, and Big Poppy will play first base for the Bo Sox, which I don't know if that makes much difference at this point for those guys because they're just playing to get a check now.
Yeah, well, I think the reason they put him in is he probably wants to play. Maybe they feel a little bit of a reason to have him in. They are, after all, the Red Sox, and he's kind of the face of the Red Sox.
Right.
And I think maybe we owe this to the fans kind of thing, to get him in there in a National League ballpark. But, I don't think that makes an actual difference as to what may happen. But, and he may hit a home run in Pittsburgh. There's no doubt about that.
Right.
But, I think you owe it to the fans. And speaking of home runs, the one guy, and we talked a little bit about this, and I still contend that there was something in the contract that didn't allow them to Polanco's contract. There had to be something there because now that he's back, and you can't tell me that him being down in AAA for what was it, Chad, 8 days or that really turned him around. You need to leave him. He's got the tools to go ahead and move on and be an outstanding player in Major League Baseball. Leave him there and let him work out his problems at the Pirates ball club. He seems to be a strong enough guy. And like I say, when they did send him down, to me, it looked like he was already working his problems out. And it was great to see him hit a home run there in the bottom of the first last night.
Yeah, but, as you say that, Dave, and I'll add this, throw this out to Chad, didn't they kind of like, sort of like Josh Harrison wasn't really getting enough work either, at one given time with the Pirates organization. For some reason, once these guys basically get back in there and get into a steady rhythm, that's when the power is revealed. And so I think Polanco, in this case, they probably just took him down for a short while, get his head together and bring him back up. And now, the guy could be in a pretty good situation for this run. What do you think, Chad?
Yeah, and I would agree with that. The one thing that I've tried to make sure that I didn't think about was how the Pirates think. Because for years I've been trying to wonder, playoff move or, position moves, why this GM was doing this with a certain player, why, he was bringing in this free agent.
Right.
It all just made my head hurt because I didn't quite get it. I mean, the Derek Bell bringing of him to Pittsburgh was one of the most colossal head scratchers I've ever seen in my life because he was so past his prime. Polanco, that's just an enigma wrapped in a mystery.
Yeah.
I don't know why they sent him down. I'm agreeing with Dave. Just leave him up and let him work his way out because that's what baseball does. It allows you to work your way out. So,
well, they got a couple of fine prospects in AAA ball this summer. You know what? And you know what? They could have very easily brought those guys up to just get a look-see in September. But I think at this point, nobody's even talking about bringing those guys up at this point. Or haven't talked about bringing them up maybe until early next spring. So
yeah, well, they're there. I mean, you have those guys there. I mean, Lambeau, I think, is one of the guys that they look to as a player of the future. And Lambeau's had his share of time in Pittsburgh this year. I'm on the fence with him. Polanco's Major League Baseball material.
Right.
It is just amazing that a man who is that tall and lanky can run. Man, does he have coordination to be able to run at the speed that he does. Mm-hmm. And this is what helps him, too. I've noticed he misjudges baseballs because now he's playing under lights most times. Mm-hmm. And it's a big adjustment from the minor leagues to the majors, the type of lighting that you have in the minor league ballparks, which is good, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But by the same token, it's not what you get at the major league level. And I noticed he had some trouble reading the ball off the bat. But the bottom line about it is he's doing that now. He's getting used to it, and that's a big plus, too. So I just look for really good things out of him. Another guy, it's key here, and Chad, you can, agree or disagree, but I think Starling Marte really stepped up. Andrew McCutchen, when he went down after being hit by the pitch, and Marte got his chance to play every day full-time and move back into center field, and then when he moved back to left field, it was like he grew on the experience of McCutchen being out and him being able to help the team, and he just keeps working on his batting average. He's up to 287 as we go into tonight's game, and that says a lot about him, and I think he's a real key to why they've been doing well, too.
And I agree, and next year, that is the best outfield in all of Major League Baseball.
Yes, no doubt.
I don't think that there's anybody that can really compare with those three. I agree. Marte has really amped up his game, and he's learning leadership from McCutchen out there in center field. He lets him be the leader because he is the leader on the team. But when he wasn't there, Starling took over that role, and it's wonderful to see. So I couldn't agree more, Dave.
It's Thursday Night Sports Talk on the airnetwork.net. Greg Banks in the studio along with Dave Shannon and also Chad States. Joining us later on this evening in fantasy football and the NFL, Jimmy Tighe, the fantasy football guy, will join us. Let me ask you guys this question. They've got 10 games now, about 10 games left. We got, the Brewers, the Braves, Cincinnati yet involved in this thing. So Chad says, yes, they will be there for the wild card. Dave, you're still sort of like on the fence, I guess, at this point.
I mean, it could unravel. I got to say this. I got to say, maybe I miscalled it. And some of the things that I was seeing at the beginning of the month, and this has been talked about during the post-games and pre-games, at the beginning of September, this team did not look like it was capable of doing this. And to their credit, they have some real character guys. I'm looking at the game right now as we're doing the show, and Josh Harrison's at the plate.
Oh, yeah.
How can you deny what this guy has done? He's
doubt.
in the race for the batting championship. Right. He went to the All-Star game. Mm-hmm. This is a guy that the Cubs gave away.
Right.
And I will say one thing, and Chad, I don't know if you noticed this or not, but last week when they played the Cubs, it's Harrison has another gear that he plays this game at when he plays the Cubs. It's like, you guys, you didn't want me. Here's how it goes. He just singled into the left, a sharp single into the left field. So, but Josh Harrison,
he's a gamer, man. He's a gamer.
Man,
to me, he's the National League most valuable player.
I thought the same thing. Yes.
It's not Clayton Kershaw. The pitchers have their own thing, so it has to be an everyday player.
Yeah.
I know Mike Stanton's put up big numbers. Miami's not a playoff team.
Mm-hmm.
So, McCutchen is the face of Pittsburgh, but he's had time off. The National League MVP is truly Josh Harrison.
I thought about that today, too, and I thought, well, how can you overlook McCutchen? But you're right. This guy has been so consistent. Even when McCutchen was out there for a while, you can't ignore him, man. You certainly can't ignore Josh Harrison in that respect as far as most valuable player. But do you think, for a moment, that he'll even get consideration? Seriously.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
I
I've
think
heard too many.
As fourth, and he might sneak into third before it's all. In fact, he should be third before it's all said and done. Absolutely. There's a lot of respect for Josh Harrison.
With Stanton now, we were talking last week, and Dave, you had some great things to say about the guy, and I really hadn't watched him a lot, but that same night he got hit in the face with that ball.
Oh, my goodness,
yeah. I mean, that was incredible, and I thought, man, I just got to meet him. They were just talking about him tonight, and boom, next thing we know, man, he took that ball to the face. Let me ask you, equipment-wise, what else can we do to protect these hitters? Chad, I know you've worked the youth leagues with these kids, and I see that the girls are now using face covering on their helmets and stuff. Do you think that's what they have to do now in baseball? Because that was an god-awful hit he took, man.
I think they need to do it at the youth levels. At the major league levels, and you'll see, the very next inning, one of their batters got thrown out.
Yeah.
And you'll see that because at the major league level, it is widely assumed that you're a pitcher, you have control as to where that baseball is going.
Yeah.
So if you're throwing at somebody's head, then it is assumed that you're doing that on purpose. Now, this clearly was a slip-up. There's no doubt if you saw the pitcher's reaction, his hand went straight to his head. It was a mistake.
Yeah,
but
he turned his face right into that, too, man.
That's exactly right. And for the most part, Major League Baseball players have the control that you don't need to worry about that. You're going up there fairly safe.
Yeah.
At the lower levels where kids are just developing how they're going to throw a baseball, how they're going to throw a certain pitch, and not knowing where it's going to go. Their face mask needs to be used, or an extension from the batting helmet that kind of wraps around more towards the guard the mouth type area. I've seen that before too. But at the major league level, I'm okay with the way they're playing it right now.
Okay. Just wondering. Hey, real quick on the MLB, let me just throw this out. The Orioles, the Nationals, the Angels, these guys have pretty much wrapped it up. Where do you guys see this thing playing out in the American and National League this year? Who do you really think will be the teams there in the end in the World Series? Seriously.
I'll tell you what, for me, the Angels have been, wow, what a run.
Yeah.
It looked like the Oakland A's were on their way to an easy Western Division championship, and everything was just fine and hunky-dory. You saw some of the deals that Billy Beane made. You thought, wow, he's really gearing up for a big run here. And all of those things changed, and, I don't know. A lot of people want to put this on the fact that they got rid of Yoenis Cespedes. And I don't know that that's – maybe you want to say that. I can't imagine that Yoenis is as valuable as he is and what a great power hitter, that losing one guy like that is going to cause a team to unravel. I think it's coincidence, to be honest with you. I think the chemistry inside the Oakland locker room is what changed.
Yeah.
And so you can say that. I can't say that one player is going to make or break a team per se.
Yeah.
So, I love what the Angels did, and they seem to me to continue to peak as the time goes by. So I look for them to really exit out of the American League playoff system. Their pitching seems to be doing well.
Right.
Boy, I'll tell you what, it's tough to ignore. Although the Dodgers, I still think about them. I still look at the Dodgers and remember that throwing fiasco. It looked like something out of Williamsport. In the Little League World Series, when the ball just kept zinging around everywhere and they end up with 3 runs, giving up 3 runs because they can't control the way they throw the baseball.
Right.
So they have these little hiccups at Los Angeles from time to time. The Giants are a pretty steady team.
Okay.
Let's look. Who else do you have? The Pirates and the Cardinals.
Right.
Boy,
Cardinals. I like the Cardinals.
The Cardinals. The Cardinals. Although the Cardinals have not had a dominant season. So I don't know if that says something about where they can go here in the postseason or not.
Right.
Maybe they flip a switch once the postseason starts.
Chad, how do you see the outcome of the let's say, who would you put in the World Series this year?
I am a heavy supporter that pitching wins championships this time of year. The 2 best teams that are geared for winning championships based on their pitching staff are the Baltimore Orioles and the Washington Nationals. If you look at what Baltimore's frontline starters have had, their frontline starters and their bullpen have been absolutely outstanding in the face of injuries. I mean, let's face it, this is the team that's missing 3 starters out of their starting lineup.
Exactly.
And are still pulling away from the NL East, or from the AL East. When you flip over to the National League and you look at the Nationals, tell me another team that has 5 starting pitchers that are that good and a bullpen now to match now that Rafael Soriano is not closing.
Right.
So I think this is a Beltway or Parkway series, however you want to frame it up, because nobody has the pitching to match up with it. The only team that kind of scares me a little bit in the National League is the Dodgers. If they get team chemistry, David said, if they get team chemistry going on, they've got 3 starters that can be absolutely devastating in Kershaw, because I don't know who's going to beat the guy in the next 10 years that he pitches.
Right.
Zach Greinke and then this Ryu kid. All 3 of those guys have the ability to go up against that Nationals pitching staff and kind of match up well. The Angels, they lost their frontline starter Garrett Stevenson a couple weeks ago to an injury, and don't discount that. When they go up against a team in a short series, we're not talking over a long haul, in a short series, I don't think they have the starting pitching to match up. The Braves and the Orioles do. So my prediction, it's the Beltway series, Nationals and Orioles.
38 miles, I think, separate those two teams. That'll be interesting. And you know what? Here I am, in this age, still calling Washington the Senators. Do you remember that, Dave? The Washington Senators.
RFK Park.
Frank Howard, man.
Better than calling them the Expos, boys.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It is. Well, I pretty much forgot about the Expos, but I call them the Senators. And meanwhile, real quick, because we've got Jimmy Tighe, the fantasy football guy, who will be standing by moments as we talk about football. But I love the Gatorade tribute to Derek Jeter, the captain. And I just want to get your thoughts on, as we watch this farewell tour, probably one of the greatest baseball players we've watched probably in the last 3 or 4 decades, man. What do you guys think about Derek Jeter?
He is one of the greatest individuals that's ever played the game of baseball.
Exactly.
I can't say he's been the greatest baseball player ever.
Right.
He's been one of the greatest individuals to ever play and represent the game.
Yeah, Dave?
Yeah, amen to that, because in this week of athletes gone wrong that we've been watching, this guy is anything but any of what you're seeing there. And, Derek Jeter is, boy, I'll tell you what, you wish every player you had on your team could be like that.
I agree.
And so I have a lot of respect for him. I also have a lot of respect for the Pirates. I don't know that they did that the Roberto Clemente Day.
Oh, last night.
I got to give them a lot of credit. And how spooky is it that Neil Walker hits his 21st home run over the 21-foot-high Clemente wall. It was just kind of spooky that he was able to do that last night.
You know what's wild?
Hats off to the Bucks. It was good to see.
Yeah, I was there at the first tribute at Three Rivers Stadium when they had that Roberto Clemente night. And something really strange was they asked all Puerto Ricans, I believe it was, to stand in there. I stood up because, hell, I'm like, I'm going to stand with these guys because I love Roberto Clemente. And that was kind of a cool thing. But I'm glad that they continue that every year because, there was a great man, a great humanitarian, sort of like Derek Jeter. Maybe not the best ball player that we've known, but certainly one of the greatest ball players we've known, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why they have the award, the Roberto Clemente Humanitarian Award, out there for Major League Baseball players to win. Yeah,
and that's so great. Thursday Night Sports Talk on the AirNetwork.net with Greg Banks in the studio, Dave Shannon, and Chad States. We'll join Jimmy Tighe, the fantasy guy, coming up in a moment with more on sports. Stick around.
Kick off your appetite with great food from Original Italian Pizza in downtown Huntington, where Bearcat fans huddle up before and after the big game. OIP in downtown Huntington provides your taste buds with appetizers, dinners, pizzas, subs, and so much more. Stop by OIP in downtown Huntington for a sandwich, meal, and cold drinks 7 days a week, or call ahead for takeouts at 643-0665 or 643-0666. OIP in downtown Huntington with the best food and the lowest prices in town.
If you're searching for a used vehicle, or perhaps a used boat for a leisurely trip on the lake, find them today online at penswoods.net. From things for sale or things to buy, the free classifieds at penswoods.net have it all. From houses for sale, apartments for rent, or even things to trade. penswoods.net is the region's largest site for free classifieds. Check it out today and make money or save money at penswoods.net.
If you own a gun, you have a full-time responsibility. When you aren't using it, be sure it can't get into the hands of curious children, troubled teenagers, a thief, or anyone else who might misuse it. Your family, friends, and neighbors are all counting on you. Remember, always, lock it up. For more information on firearm storage safety, visit ncpc.org. This message brought to you by the National Crime Prevention Council, the Bureau of Justice Assistance, and the Ad Council.
Restore the luster of your home or business now by calling Ted's Painting and Drywall at 814-641-0479. Ted's Painting and Drywall does quality exterior and interior painting, staining, faux finishing, trim work, and wall repair. Plus, Ted's Painting and Drywall can remove wallpaper and finish drywall for one room or the whole house. Ted's Painting and Drywall, a licensed contractor offering a 20% discount to seniors and 35% discount to churches. Book your work now at Ted's Painting and Drywall. Call 641-0479. It's Thursday night sports talk here on the airnetwork.net. Greg Banks in the studio being joined by Dave Shannon, Chad States, and also Jimmy Tighe, the fantasy football guy. Hi, Jimmy.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey, not much.
Hey, Jimmy.
Buddy. Yeah. Anyhow, we are grooving through Thursday night, and of course the Buccos are on the tube, as you guys mentioned, taking on none other than the Boston Red Sox. But now it's time to talk a little football, and let's get started with high school football. Last week, the Huntington Bearcats taking on a powerful Tyrone Eagle team, and Tyrone came out on top 52-21. Chad, you were at the game. I know that had to have been kind of disheartening for the players, but there are probably numerous reasons why it did turn out the way it turned out.
Yeah, it was a tough game for the Bearcats, and a lot of us found out right at the beginning of the game why it was going to be a devastating night for the Bearcats. They were down 4 starters, all of them suffering from illnesses, but we were looking at a starting quarterback, the backup quarterback, the starting running back, and the starting wide receiver all being out of that game on Friday night. So while the team had known about it for a couple of days and were trying to prepare, when you lose that much leadership and when you lose that much talent, it's going to be hard to recover, specifically at the high school level. So tough night for the Bearcats, but I will give them credit. They hung in there. They kept grinding. Even through the second half, they kept the starters in. They kept battling. They kept trying to figure things out and kept trying to educate themselves, and not only just in that game, but what's going to be coming ahead to them, which is this week against the Clearfield Bison.
Now, they take on the Bisons tomorrow night at Warvets Field. They're back home. Maybe that will help them a little bit. And I don't know that much about Clearfield, but I know every year they bring a tough squad. What do you know about Clearfield and tomorrow night's game?
Clearfield matches Huntington with a 1-2 record. They lost their first game to a Kaiser, West Virginia team that I would have no idea what about. They kind of played one of those teams out of state.
Right.
They then beat Penns Valley pretty handily, which is also on Huntington's schedule later on, and then lost to Central last week. We had seen Central lose to Tyrone in a close football game. So, with Clearfield always brings a run-and-shoot type of offense where the quarterback is constantly in the shotgun formation. They lost last year's quarterback, and his name escapes me. I think he was a Division I and Division II recruit.
Was that the Leather kid?
What's that?
Was that the Leather kid from Clearfield that was
It was the
quarterback?
Leather kid. That's exactly
Yeah, okay.
right. So they lost him last year, but they always seemingly have a quarterback in the making coming up through. I expect nothing less than a pass-happy type of offense, throwing to multiple receivers who have patterns going all over the place, against a Huntington team that kind of can defend that. So this ought to be a fairly decent matchup with the Bearcats tomorrow night. We'll see defensively how Clearfield is going to match up against Huntington's running game. Huntington's averaging close to 170 yards a game on the ground,
right.
Led by their junior tailback, John Wagner, who's over or near 110-yard average per game. So we're going to see what what comes about. Huntington always plays Clearfield tough at home. It's a rivalry, but it's not. There's kind of a little bad blood there between the two programs.
Right.
So, we'll see what happens on Friday night.
Well, we wish the Bearcats the best of luck. Meanwhile, you know what, Chad? I have them on my social calendar here coming up for homecoming weekend. On October the 10th, the class of 72, we're getting together what they call our reunion birthdays. In other words, we all turned 60 this year. So I'll be coming to Huntington to take part with some of these old farts there at the homecoming game. And I'm not sure we're going to bring out our homecoming band, but if we do, I'll be playing the kazoo. I just want to let you know that ahead of time. All right?
Outstanding. Outstanding. Looking forward to it, Greg.
Hey, now on to more fantasy stuff. Let's talk about fantasy football, and that's why we have Jimmy Tighe, the fantasy guy here. Jimmy, I'm going to tell you what. I'm checking these stats. Matt Ryan, one of the leading quarterbacks in passing yards. and the Falcons face the Buccaneers tonight on CBS. Tell me a little bit about Matt Ryan and some of these other quarterbacks you've got.
Well, Matt Ryan, he's been struggling lately with some interceptions last week against the Bengals. But I could see Matt Ryan coming through against a weaker team with the Buccaneers. I don't think the Buccaneers defense is really that good.
Right.
So I can see Matt Ryan maybe getting at least 260, 250 yards passing, a couple touchdowns. So Julio, Rodney White. But the big news is in that division, in the Buccaneers division, is Adrian Peterson's no longer with the Vikings.
Okay.
So if you draft Adrian Peterson, AP,
right, he's
then
out.
Then you want to get his backup, Matt Estesa. Who had a touchdown last week against the New England Patriots. And it's the only touchdown the Vikings scored last week.
Okay. Well, who were some of the other hot hands last week that are on your team? I mean, did you have a good week in terms of rushing receivers? I mean, how'd you fare?
I would have had a good week if I would have played Nick Foles, but I looked at him like I'm going to play Ben Roethlisberger, and he only gave me 6 points.
Okay.
Where Nick Foles, Greg's second favorite team, the Eagles, gave me 23 points.
I'm loving those Eagles. I'm loving those Eagles even more than the Steelers now. But keep going.
Yeah, but I didn't get dub points from Nick Foles, so my team lost. But I barely lost. I think I lost by like 10 points or so.
All right.
But one of the players that really stepped up for me was Marcellus Bennett of the Chicago Bears.
Marcellus Bennett, okay.
He gave me, I think it was like 16 points.
Right.
And the guy I spoke about in week 1, Danny Woodhead.
Right.
Danny Woodhead gave me 14 points.
Hey, I'm seeing this guy from Green Bay, man. I think Dave mentioned him, and you also mentioned him, too. What's the receiver? He had a hot hand last week.
Boykins?
I'm not sure if it was
Jordy
him.
Nelson.
Was there a
Jordan
Jordan
Nelson?
Jordan
that's
Nelson.
The guy that,
Yeah.
Jordy Nelson killed me. He I believe he had 36 points in my league that I was in.
Yeah.
And he just with that one player just crushed my whole week.
See, I pay attention to these things, these comments you guys make, Dave, Chad, and also Jimmy, here on Thursday Night Sports Talk, here on the airnetwork.net. So let's move forward now, past the fantasy football and bring it back to reality. I'm watching the Steeler game last week. They're killing me, man. This secondary looks like they're going to get burnt all season long as they get ravaged by the Ravens. Man, what went wrong? I mean, Chad, what happened in that game? And then, Dave, you can pick it up from there.
I think we talked about this in the preseason, before the season even started, that the Steelers were going to be challenged defensively. And it really just showed true against the Ravens. Now, granted, I think there was some motivation in that game.
Yeah.
The Ravens come out with a little bit of, a head of steam, so to speak. But let's face it, the Steelers looked awful. I mean, they couldn't find themselves defensively. They looked old. I just think that, the personnel that they're putting on the field right now doesn't match up with everybody else.
Well, Dave, what do you think? I mean, I'm watching this Ike Taylor, and this guy's continuously getting burnt. Troy's having a rough time this season as well back there. I don't know what the answer is.
Well, the answer is that they're at the, to me personally, and I have an issue with Ike Taylor. I'm surprised that his name hasn't come up during this bad discussion that's been going on about the NFL. Mm-hmm. He carries this attitude. I don't know. Ike may be okay off the field.
He talks a lot, though.
The one thing that I see in him, the way he conducts himself on the field, the way he interacts with the media, he is, excuse me, I'm going to use this word. He seems to me like a punk.
Yeah,
okay, he acts like a thug, a punk, and I never liked that about him. Mm-hmm. And now that he's getting older, boy, I'll tell you what, we've talked about this. I think we did maybe in our first show about the short lifespan of an NFL player.
Right.
And defensively now it's getting even worse.
Oh, I think they
because if you're a back in the NFL, you better have that speed. And just by nature of aging and the way human bodies are, you're going to lose speed as you grow older, and that's really, I remember last year the comment came out about the Steelers, and I don't think it's as true this year. I think there's a number of players that have had, the number of things have changed. I don't think they're as old and slow, because that phrase came out last year, old and slow, about their defense. I don't think they're quite that that bad this year, but their backs are being exposed now. And I think it's time for Ike Taylor to go. And I don't know, it's Polamalu. The one thing about being a good, reckless
he's a risk taker.
Defender that he is, that makes big plays, is when your speed starts to go down, then you're in a position, because you took this risk, that you can't recover either.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to be able to cover the field as much as he used to in the past. And as far as Ike's concerned, let's face it, you have Sherman from the Seattle Seahawks. He does a lot of talking, but it seems like he backs it up. Where if Ike talks, in fact, he can't back it up. So he needs to stop talking, really, I think is what's happening. Well, let's go on to this week, because, last week is history, but this week they've got Cam Newton and the Panthers coming in. And like I said, Steelers secondary is suspect as far as I'm concerned. What do you see good in that game, guys? Anything coming up that might be a bright spot for the Steelers?
No. The only thing I can see is the Panthers are coming through the same way that the Ravens did with Ray Rice. They had the Greg Hardy situation that is happening right now down in Carolina. So, and with the way that defense played, because they didn't have Hardy last week, that defense did really good with Luke Kuechly in the middle. He was Defensive Player of the Year last year.
Right.
Cam Newton is just going to burn Ike Taylor. He's going to burn William Gay. I don't see it's going to be a pretty outcome for Pittsburgh. They're going to be 1-2 after Sunday.
Your thoughts, Chad?
Yeah, one of the things that I didn't understand going into the season is how many people were down on the Carolina Panthers. And they didn't quite get that because they were 12-4 last year in the regular season. So they come out and they win 2 quick football games and in big-time fashion. I think in the power rankings, this team is ranked as high as 4th, 5th, and some of them that I'm seeing out there. I think it's a long 60 minutes for the Pittsburgh Steelers again on Sunday, and I hate to say that, but this game it's not a good matchup for them right now at all.
That's a Sunday night game, by the way, on NBC, and quite frankly, by midnight, actually by halftime, if this is a dog of a game, I'm in bed. What do you think, Dave? Because I know you will be, because you have to work early the next day, but I mean, I'm out probably by 10 o'clock at least if these guys are getting killed, man.
Yeah, I think the one thing that they and this is such a conundrum now for the team, because they need, I think offensively, they're still in that mode as the guys continue to settle in the new offensive line. They're better, but they're not quite where they need to be, and they need to go no huddle. Right. Here's the problem with no huddle is if you are doing well and you're moving the ball down the field and scoring points, you're putting that old defense, that old slow defense, back out on the field quicker. I just see them as being a much better team when they're in a hurry-up type of offense. It just seems to work a lot better for them.
All right. Well, let's get some predictions on this game. Jimmy, you first, then Chad, then Dave. What's the outcome of Sunday night's game with the Steelers and the Panthers?
I'll say 24-10 Carolina.
All right, Chad?
I just
right,
see that.
Right on the money. That's exactly the score I was thinking of, 24-10 Carolina.
Wow. What do you think, Dave?
27-14 Carolina.
All right, so Carolina is in the bag.
What's yours, Greg?
My prediction is a little bit closer than that. I'm going to say probably 21-17. I don't know. I just threw that out, but I hope that's what happens. I got no money riding on this thing, so, I'm going to go with that. Hey, speaking of which now, I'm watching the Eagles the other night, and somebody dismissed the fact that they were getting beat, maybe in the first half, and they hit me up on Facebook, to which I said, don't worry about it. These guys are just getting their legs under them, and they just ran all over the place in the second half. What do you think about those Eagles? They're wearing teams down, aren't they?
That's the way the Steelers should play. If the Steelers play like the Eagles, just fast-paced ball, 24 seconds every snap, let Big Ben call the plays. So don't let Haley call the plays. Just have Big Ben call the plays. I can see the Steelers doing something in their division, but the way the Eagles play is just a shock. Everybody laughed at Chip Kelly. That offense isn't going to work in the pros.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, it's working in the pros right now.
Well, it seems to be wearing them down. I mean, they've got their rushing, they've got their receiving core together, they've got their rusher. LaShawn's doing well. So what do you think, Dave? I mean, that was my second favorite team, and of course, you at first said the Eagles were one of your favorite teams too.
Yeah, I do like what they're doing. This is troubling, though, because I think for the long haul, you cannot continue. It's great what they're doing, but don't expect to get really very far. If you continue to do that, you dig yourself a hole in the first half, come back and win in the second half. That really doesn't work, especially if you dig a deep hole and things don't look that well. You know, the best teams, and I go back to Penn State over the years because I spent so many years watching them.
Right.
And that was one of their keystones, throughout the years, was that they would go ahead and maybe it'd be close in the first half. Maybe they'd be behind at halftime.
Yeah.
But by God, they go in at halftime and make the adjustments that were necessary to come out and win.
Yeah.
And I do like to see that. I don't think that bodes well, though, in the NFL for a long-haul situation because eventually you're going to come up against a team that is just going to flat-out shut you down beginning to end.
Hey, Chad, do you see these guys doing anything in that division now? Because I think they're, looking good. But what do you think they'll do at the end of the season?
They'll run away. That division's probably one of the worst, if not the worst in football with the other three teams that you're looking at. Washington, I just don't think they're that good of a football team, even though I am in favor of Kirk Cousins playing at quarterback.
Oh, yeah, that was a good move.
Over RG3, even if he was healthy.
Yeah.
But the Giants are a complete mess.
Oh, they are.
You don't know what you're going to get out of Dallas from week to week. So clearly the Eagles are going to run away with that division and probably build up a fairly decent record heading into the playoffs. But I'm with Dave. They're going to run into trouble when they face somebody like Seattle, somebody like San Francisco that can flat-out play defense and shut you down.
Yeah.
And that's where I see the trouble spot with the Eagles coming.
Okay. This Thursday night sports talk on the airnetwork.net. We've got more to talk about with Penn State, Pitt, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Stick around. We've got more of your favorite sports here in PA coming up in just a moment.
This is a test to find out if you know it all when it comes to children. Time starts now. Name one of the leading killers of U.S. children age 1 to 13. What's the best way to protect children in a car crash? At what age and size should a child start using a booster seat? Where can you find the answers to these questions?
Car crashes are one of the leading killers of U.S. children. Many of those deaths could be prevented by making sure that kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Don't assume you know it all when it comes to car seats for your child. Go to safercar.gov/the-right-seat and know for sure. That's safercar.gov/the-right-seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
If you're searching for a used vehicle, or perhaps a used boat for a leisurely trip on the lake, find them today online at penswoods.net. From things for sale or things to buy, the free classifieds at penswoods.net have it all. From houses for sale, apartments for rent, or even things to trade. penswoods.net is the region's largest site for free classifieds. Check it out today and make money or save money at penswoods.net. Hi, this is Greg Banks. Join us Thursday nights at 7 for 1 hour of rapid-fire conversations on area and regional sports. It's Thursday Night Sports Talk on the Air Network. Join me, Dave Shannon, Chad States, and Jimmy Tighe as we discuss the Pirates, Steelers, Penguins, and much more. It's Thursday Night Sports Talk, exclusively Thursday nights at 7 on the airnetwork.net. Restore the luster of your home or business now by calling Ted's Painting and Drywall at 814-641-0479. Ted's Painting and Drywall does quality exterior and interior painting, staining, faux finishing, trim work, and wall repair. Plus, Ted's Painting and Drywall can remove wallpaper and finish drywall for one room or the whole house. Ted's Painting and Drywall, a licensed contractor offering a 20% discount to seniors and 35% discount to churches. Book your work now at Ted's Painting and Drywall. Call 641-0479. It's Thursday Night Sports Talk here on the airnetwork.net. Hey, we have some new programming, by the way, I might mention, from Liberty Radio Network. There's a lady by the name of Angel Clark who does a show from 5 to 7. You'll hear her here on the airnetwork.net. Also, another show I'm kind of enthused to listen to each night from 7 to 10. It's called Free Guys. Now, I don't know exactly if they're guys or if they're free, but it has something to do with being free. All right, so
Make burgers.
yeah, I just wanted to throw that in. That's right. That one. No, there's not the burger guys, not Five Guys, but Free People or something. Free Guys. And I may be mistaken there, Dave. Let me see what this. Oh, Free Talk. That's the name of the show. Okay.
Oh, Free Talk Live.
Yeah,
yes.
I blew that. I'm
actually,
sorry.
The one radio station, actually two of them that I work for, we do air some segments of Free Talk Live.
Okay, yeah, it's an interesting program from 7 to 10 Eastern Time. And as I mentioned, Angel Clark on from 5 to 7. So, of course, we're bumping that free live talk thing tonight because of Thursday Night Sports Talk. Which, getting back to something you mentioned earlier, Penn State. Oh, man. They just barely pulled that game out against Rutgers over the weekend. I think the final was 13 to 10. But this week, they're already striking up the band here on Thursday night because they're playing a team they're not even familiar with named UMass. And the only person I know who ever came out of UMass is, the guy that does a mariachi dance at the end of the touchdowns up there at New York Giants. What's his name?
Victor Cruz.
Yeah, Victor Cruz. He's the only guy I know who ever came out of UMass. Do you guys know anything about this team? Okay, well, that said it all. That said it all right there. Short segment. We're done with that now. Anyhow, speaking of which, it seems like Hackenberg had a nice week last week. Hackenberg and Belton still doing well. What do you guys assess with Penn State? What do they need to do to blow these guys out in the first half?
Run the football.
Run
the football.
Show up.
Learn how to run the football.
Yeah.
This is a good opportunity to get your blocking schemes down because you're going to head into the meat of the Big Ten schedule, and you better be able to run the football. You're not going to win that many games. One of the things I had as an early concern after watching the game from Ireland was the defense. But I think they've answered the call. Credit to the coaches at Penn State. I think the defense is playing much better now, and they seem to be gelling a good cohesive unit. The offense, it's just Christian Hackenberg, now a sophomore.
Okay.
And he still doesn't have I'll tell you what, he takes a lot on his shoulders every week.
Yes.
But still as a sophomore, it's kind of tough to do that week in and week out. You need that backup of that running game to take a little bit of pressure off of you. But I'll tell you what, there are times does he not look like young Ben Roethlisberger when he's playing?
Yeah, he did. Matter of fact, I watched this kid, and he's putting up some half-decent numbers, you know what I mean?
Oh, my, yeah.
And if they could only get that defense together, because right now, as you mentioned, it's suspect at best. But if you're James Franklin, Chad, how do you get your team up for UMass? Come on. Nobody knows. I mean, I don't even know what league these guys are in.
Yeah, I don't know what league they're in either. You don't. What you do in a game like this is you don't necessarily get them up for it. You're telling your team, listen, we've got to go out and just execute what we need to do. We've got some things we have to work on, and we're going to put that into the game plan, and you've got to show me how to play good, crisp football. A lot of you are going to get in tonight. A lot of you are going to see a lot of time out here. There might be some red shirts burned in this game, depending on how bad and how out of hand it gets.
Right.
But this is a game for us to really, really, really work on things. Now, you can't take the opponent lightly by any stretch of the imagination, but as far as I know about UMass, this is as light a team as you're going to play maybe ever in a home football schedule. So, you just try to get them focused on execution from start to finish through the game, whoever you put in.
Hey, Jimmy, what do you think about this upcoming game with UMass? Because we don't really know anything about them. But maybe, as Chad said, they'll be able to throw in a few new wrinkles, perhaps?
Yeah, maybe 3 wrinkles. I saw a stat the other night that Hackenberg is the first, let me get this straight, he's the first Penn State quarterback to have, I believe, 4 or 5 300-yard games in the history of the school.
Okay.
So just throw the ball down there. Who knows about UMass? Only thing I know about them is they're out of the Patriot League.
Okay, they're out of the Patriot League, and I do believe Colgate plays. Because I remember taking my son, my oldest son, who just got married recently. He's 37 now, and we went to a Penn State Brown game. And the only cool thing was it was the smallest band I ever saw, but it was so bad at halftime, like 62-0. He said, Dad, it's cold. Do you think it's time to leave? I said, yeah, it was time to leave, like maybe a half an hour ago or an hour ago. So I believe this could be another one of those games where it could be a long day, for the opposing team.
it'll be a long day for UMass, I'll tell you that.
No doubt.
And it should be, and Penn State shouldn't attempt to pass in this game.
Well, I'm
just
checking.
Let Hackenberg hand it off. Don't burn a red shirt for a quarterback. Just let him hand it off all game long and walk away happy.
All right, I apologize for the technical behavior of the internet. NSA obviously does not want us to get this show in tonight. You guys have any reason why we wouldn't be able to? We just kind of lost everybody at the same time, one at a time.
I did not use any of the keywords necessary for the NSA to have taken us off at this point.
And
I don't know what.
Exactly right.
And I didn't plan this, folks. Believe me. Jimmy, you're with us. Chad, you're with us. Yeah. And Dave, you're with us. We were just talking about Pitt football. Now, they blew out FIU 42-25, and we'll go round robin here as they get ready to take on Iowa this Saturday at noon. Now, this could be a closer game, and I guess what I'm going to ask you is if anybody has predictions. Chad, give us a prediction and anything you can tell us about Pitt. Go ahead.
Oh, I think Pitt's going to win this football game. I think that the Big Ten is not that good of a conference. I don't think Iowa is that good of a football team. And I think James Conner's going to have a big day and get himself further into that Heisman type of spotlight. So I predict a Pitt win. Don't know a score, but I think a Panther victory is in store.
Well, I mentioned that Connors, by the way, won the Maxwell Player of the Week award. He's the nation's second leading rusher. And that can't be a bad thing, Jimmy, as far as these guys are going, because they seem to be playing well together.
Yeah, they have been. I know that James Conner has the most yards in the first 3 games for a Pitt running back than any other Pitt football player in the history of that program. So that's pretty good, because if you think of the Pitt running back that they had, Curtis Martin, Shady McCoy, and Tony Dorsett, just to name a few.
Well, didn't he break one of Dorsett's records the other day?
Yeah, that's the rushing yards.
Okay, that's what I thought, yeah.
Yeah, the rushing yards.
Somebody has their speakers up. Turn your speakers down. I think we're kind of getting a delay. Dave, you have anything to say about Pitt taking on Iowa this week?
I'm going to actually give you a score as well.
Okay.
And I'm going to preface this by saying it's going to be close up to the end.
Yeah.
But in the end, Pitt will pull away with a 27-17 victory over Iowa.
Okay. What do you think, Jimmy?
My score will be 42-17 Pitt.
42-17
baby.
Pitt. Okay, you think they're going to roll it up?
Yeah, because I don't think the Big Ten and Iowa. Just look at the way Iowa played against an 0-2 team.
Speaking,
that's true.
In Iowa State, who's a rival, in-state rival. The Big Ten isn't really that strong this year. The best Big Ten teams we have is Penn State and Michigan State, in my honest opinion. So I don't think it's going to be that close of a game. 42-17, Pitt's going to win. It's at Heinz Field.
Right.
Electric atmosphere. A big-time school coming in. So that's what I say about that.
Let me ask you guys about that, because we haven't heard that much about the Big Ten this year. They don't seem to be a threat in the BCS as they have maybe in years past. Who will be the front leaders or front runners this year? Michigan State, maybe Penn State? What happened to Ohio State? I mean, what's going on with Wisconsin?
Braxton Miller.
Braxton Miller. Yeah.
Once Braxton Miller went out with that injury, even though they were ranked, Dave, like 8th or 9th in the country going into the season,
right.
Once Braxton Miller got injured and they put his backup in, it just went downhill. Just look what happened against Virginia Tech.
Oh, yeah, okay.
A weaker Virginia Tech team. They went downhill, and Braxton Miller's the reason why Ohio State is not winning.
Okay, a couple of things. Hey, Dave, give me an update when you can on that Pirate game, if there is any on that. Meanwhile, as we get ready to wrap up this edition of Thursday Night Sports Talk here on the Air Network, we're on every Thursday night from 7 until 8. Or we can actually stick around as long as we want to. And as guys fall asleep, we get drunk or something. There is some good news in football. And, I want to tell you this, that the other day I heard a heartbreaking or heartwarming story about the Bengals. We all heard about that story, about the player whose daughter was ill with cancer and how the NFL reached out, and especially like Sean Payton from New Orleans. What a guy. He sent like 100 jerseys up there to be sold in honor of this little girl And, I mean, those are good stories that we have to hear more of in light of all the bad stuff we've been hearing about. How about the Tighe brothers? One giving the other the kidney. I think the brother, Chris, who used to play for the Steelers, got the kidney from his brother who played for the Ravens at one time. I mean, those are all good stories. And I'm sure in this day and age, it's good to hear some good stuff for once.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, the story is just it's absolutely amazing what that organization has done to help that young man out.
Oh yeah, they didn't have to keep him around at all, man. You know, they could have pretty much kicked him to the street, no insurance. But I think Marv Lewis and those guys did a hell of a job for Cincinnati. And you know what? He found himself off of the practice squad, back on the squad. I understand.
Yes,
he played last week.
Yeah.
And just think that Devin Steele used to go to Penn State. He played for Penn State.
Oh, that's right. He did. Well, tonight, by the way, big college game, Auburn and Kansas State. Okay, Kansas State's 20. I think Auburn's ranked, 3 to 5. How do you guys think that's going to play out tonight? Dave, any prediction on that game? And then we'll go round robin on that.
Don't have an idea on points, but I think Auburn prevails there, and without much of a problem, to be honest.
Okay. Do they have dynamic quarterback again like they had years ago with Cam Newton and some of those guys, Chad, you know?
Yeah, it's the same quarterback that they had last year. So he's your prototypical, look to run first, throw second type of guy. I as much as it pains me, the SEC is once again back in the forefront of college football. I think they have 6 teams ranked in the top 10, Auburn being one of them. Now the next toughest conference happens to be the Big 12, which is where Kansas State is. So it's a matchup against 2 premier conferences, but I got to believe that the SEC is going to come out ahead of this, and I think Auburn wins by 2 touchdowns.
What do you think, Jimmy, tonight in that Auburn-Kansas State game that gets underway, I believe, in just a few minutes?
I believe their quarterback is just dynamic. That Nick Marshall, he's just a good quarterback. He's an underrated quarterback because everybody looks at the Moreno out in Oregon and other players like that, Jameis Winston in Florida State.
Yeah.
But this Nick Marshall, he's quietly becoming a household name. I don't think Kansas State can hold Auburn. I believe Auburn's going to win that game. So it'll be a close game, but because since the game is at Kansas State, it's a ESPN game, and that I just think that Auburn's just going to win, that they know what it's like to be on national television over what Kansas State knows.
Well,
how's it feel?
Yeah, if we can get the MAC Conference to start playing their games on Tuesday, maybe the Patriot League on Wednesday, hell, we'll have football every night of the week, guys. What do you think?
I like that.
I'll tell you why the SEC is so powerful, because ESPN invested all that money
into their network. How about that? Somebody would have done that. Somebody would eventually come up with that idea anyhow. But speaking of which, television, man, I got to get back to my Ken Burns PBS special with the Roosevelts this week. I'm learning so much about our past presidents and those oil barons or those rich guys, man. I want to be just like them. So,
Greg, I would just like to say, Greg, I would just like to say, I hope all my friends that are listening on the Air Network up in the Poconos where I used to live at, my ex-wife and my friends at Blue Ridge Communications News 13, who is covering what's happening up in my area. I just want them all to be safe, and I know that my daughter's school up in the Poconos is closed right now. They shut the daycare down, and I just want all my friends up there who's covering the story, who work for News 13, just to be safe and know that we're all thinking of them down here in Johnstown.
Yeah, our thoughts and prayers going out to Corporal Brian Dixon's family tonight, because that was just one of those devastating things to even hear about, how the ambush occurred, and so our thoughts and prayers going out to all families involved. Chad?
Amen to that. Absolutely right.
Right, because those guys, I tell you what, they do a lot for very little, and they put their lives on the line each and every day, making those sacrifices. So there are more important things in sports. I can't think of many, but that would be one of them. So I hope you guys have a great weekend, too. Any big plans?
Watching the Bucks and the Brewers. By the way, they're tied at 1 with the Red Sox right now. Top of the 4th inning, 1 out. That was a big fly ball to left field, and Starling Marte handled with plenty of room behind him. So Garrett Cole on the hill for the Bucks.
You think this is Big Poppy's last year, Dave? I don't know. Do you think he'll just give it up, or he's not doing much for his check?
I don't know. I don't think so. I still think he enjoys being there. I think he'll stay for another season.
Hey, Chad, I know you.
Said,
yeah,
he's already said that he's going to stay.
Okay.
But he's not going to do the tour like Derek Jeter is.
The Derek Jeter farewell tour.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. He doesn't want any farewell tour. He is going to come back, and he is going to play next year. I've got a riveting 3rd through 5th grade soccer match to partake in on Saturday, where my son's team is 2-1.
Well, good luck to them.
He's got a super pumped up attitude, so we'll see what happens.
All right, Jimmy.
Yeah, that's good to hear. They're keeping track of wins and losses and points and all that.
Oh, man.
Wow.
Hey, I'm glad to hear he's not just getting a trophy for coming out for the team.
Absolutely right.
They do things right in Huntington, dude. Let me tell you this. Yeah. Hey, meanwhile, Jimmy, what do you got going on?
Just watching football all week, that's all.
All right, man. Well, that could be my main gig, but I got to get off the couch sometime, man. I'm on this kick now where I've got 30 days to gain like maybe 10 pounds. And, I tell you, I tried that about 4 years ago. Hell, I lost 5. It's like being a wrestler. Something wasn't working. Doctor keeps saying, drink more milkshakes, drink more beer. I'm like, dude, you're going to kill me. Hey, but you guys have a great weekend, okay?
You too.
Take care.
And we'll
Greg.
see you next week here on the AirNetwork.net Thursday Night Sports Talk with Dave Shannon, Chad States, Jimmy Tighe. Thank you, guys. We'll see you here on the AirNetwork.net next Thursday night at 7. So long, everybody.